It's time for another new Kansas City Spotlight. Here's your host, Lauren Scott.
A new concept called criminal mediation is resulting in more and more criminal cases resolving themselves without a trial. I'm Lauren Scott, your host for Kansas City Spotlight, and today I'm joined by attorney David Bell to learn more about criminal mediation. Hi, David. How you doing?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So the big question is, what is criminal mediation? Can you explain that?
Absolutely. It's a really cool thing, and it's happening both in Kansas and Missouri. And what it is it's a mechanism by which cases can resolve themselves without a trial. And what I mean by that is in any criminal case, there is the act itself or the alleged act itself and whether or not the person's guilty of that. But there's also other components to it. For example, with my clients, sometimes it's the risks of going to trial. Maybe the risks are too high because the consequences for losing a trial are too high. Maybe from the victim side, yes, they would like to see a guilty verdict at a jury trial, but even more so, they would like to hear from the defendant as to why he or she committed the acts that they committed. What if we could have a forum where all that comes into play in a confidential setting so that when people leave the experience of the criminal justice system, they feel a slightly more resolution and slightly better about the outcome.
So where does restorative justice come in?
Sure. So in any criminal trial, there's just a number of rules, and those rules are necessary to make sure that the process is consistent and the process produces the result that it's supposed to produce, that someone is guilty or not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Where restorative justice comes in, at least in part, is what if the victims in a case want more than just a guilty verdict? Or what if a guilty verdict and a prison sentence doesn't help them in their healing process or doesn't do enough to help them in their healing process? What else can be done? I've had murder cases before where my client, wanting to resolve it by something other than a trial, has said, I'm willing to speak to the victim's family to tell them exactly what happened. And sometimes in that very open dialogue, the very open communication between two individuals that would otherwise be sitting on opposite sides of the courtroom, sometimes that can bring about healing both to my client and to the victim's family.
So how can someone know if their case, if criminal mediation is even an option for them?
Sure. For defendants, ask your criminal defense attorney and be sure to say, hey, check, because in some of these counties it's newer and it's not necessarily well known. For victims or victims' families, ask your victim advocate or the prosecutor helping with you with your case.
Well, this is all very interesting, David. So if someone wants to learn more, get some more information, talk to you, where can they go?
Sure. Just give me a call or send me an email.
All right. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
This Kansas City Spotlight has been paid for by David Bell at Wersch Hobbs Merakian. For more information, visit WHMLawDB.com.